Last night, the United States Mutant Ninja Turtles descended into Kingston, Jamaica, the office, and extracted a 1-0 win. And I'm not going to lie, this one was hard to watch at times, but in international football, in Concacaf especially, all that matters is finding a way to win. And Mauricio Pochettino, in his first competitive game as United States manager, did just that, surviving the heat, the challenging field conditions, and football really played in Star Wars cantina atmospheres to emerge with a 1-0 victory, and in so doing, instantly tied Greg Berhalter for career Confederation wins on the road. The smoke's now cleared on the game, quite literally apparently, and it is a joy to break down all of the madness, big picture and in detail, and discuss its meaning for the World Cup, which is now just 573 days away, but who's counting? With a remarkable human being, former US men's national team striker turned broadcaster on ESPN, is Football America's It's Must-Watch Baby, as is his star turn on Vamos, on the Men in Blazers Media Network. It's a joy to welcome back my friend, it's Mr. Hercules Gomez.
Raj, my man, how you doing? Crazy game last night. I'm not going to lie, it was hard to watch, but I actually liked what I saw, and I don't mind that there were challenges. I think that's a good thing.
You grow from such experiences, and that's what we need for this team. That is the theory anyway. You're saying it was an ugly one, Herc. And I do want to break it down in its minutiae, but big picture, if an alien dropped down from space and we showed them a Greg Berhalter game on the road in CONCACAF, and we showed them this, Mauricio Pochettino's first competitive game as US manager, that alien, what would they see that's different between last night's US performance and a Greg Berhalter joint?
Well, let's start off with the personality, all right, the character of the team. Now, Greg Berhalter, he did a lot of good things for the U.S. men's national team. We should respect what he did. He was good in a lot of ways. But certainly, when it came to playing away in CONCACAF, that was his Achilles heel. He would experiment, he would tinker, he would put in players that maybe you wouldn't put in a must-win game. That wasn't the case here. You got Christian Pulisic is going to play. You got Weston McKennie's going to play. You got Matt Turner, he's going to be in goal. There was no experiments. Greg Berhalter was very good tactically and on how he would prepare for certain teams. I just don't think the personnel was always the right decision. Now, you said it off the bat. Mauricio Pochettino equaled Greg Berhalter's tenure in away wins in CONCACAF. Or just in general. That is amazing and it blows my mind. You're going to see certain patterns of play that mimic what the U.S. men's national team did at home. Panama, first game, Mauricio Pochettino. And what they tried doing regardless of the opponent and the situation and location away against Jamaica. A four-man back line that oftentimes looked like a three-man back line. Anthony Robinson flying down the left-hand flank. Joe Scally coming into the midfield. Yunus Musa providing possession and more interior play from the right-hand side. A double pivot. The 9 and how he would like the 9 to associate. The free roam of Christian Pulisic starting out on the left-hand side and all of a sudden combining all the way down the right with Yunus Musa. You saw certain patterns of play that you're like, okay, the idea is clear. From the Panama game to the Jamaica game. And we'll scratch off the Mexico game in Guadalajara because a lot of players were missing and things went awry. And sometimes when you're chasing the game, you've got to do different things. But certainly there are certain ideas that off the bat, you're like, okay, I can see this. That wasn't always the case with Greg Berhalter. So if I'm this alien, I would say, well, what game am I watching for Greg Berhalter? Because Greg Berhalter would change a lot of times based on the opponent. He would oftentimes respect the opponent too much or the situation too much and say, I have to change here tactically. That wasn't the case with Mauricio Pochettino.
And aliens, welcome to America. We're a big-hearted people. You are welcome to join our tiny bandwagon. This Men in Blazers Vamos US Men's National Team Special is brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today, play $5 and get $50 instantly when you use the code MIB. CONCACAF is to me, Herc, a bit like Chinatown was to Jack Nicholson. It is a confounding footballing ecosystem. Honestly, unlike any other. Every manager, Jurgen Klinsmann used to say that. He'd seen the world and then he came to CONCACAF and it blew his mind. And last night was really a planet away from the manicured conditions that Poch is used to in the Premier League or the Champions League. Let's just say CONCACAF is a leveler. It's a knife fight. It's kind of similar to football in a way, but similar in a way that Ninja Warrior obstacle courses are or Russian slap fights. This game, this moment for our boys is very much a reset. Christian Pulisic talked about it before the game, about just how much the players wanted to make a good impression, how much they wanted to impress the coaches, Pochettino. But Poch, he's also getting used to CONCACAF, to the American squad, and also international football, Herc, and his ability to, or inability, we don't know, he's not talked about it enough, to make an impact just in those fleeting 2 or 3 training sessions at a time.
If this were a CONCACAF slap, power slap competition, that's when you get Brad Guzan back. That's who I want doing the power slaps for the U.S. men's national team.
I know, what's that man spring out of the back of the net and just get back up and keep going.
Could you imagine getting slapped? He gets slapped and then he takes out the prosthetic tooth and shows him, you ain't phased me. That's
God,
where I want Brad.
Chucks the tooth dismissively. This is amazing. Like Manute Bol, the NBA player who was once a goat herd, and then they were like, no, you've got all the characteristics to be a great NBA player. Maybe Guzan is kind of like, he's a good goalkeeper, but maybe he missed his true calling.
Calling.
Yes. Russian slap fighter. Russia, you don't know. You don't know what you got in store.
You don't know me, dog. You don't know where I'm from. That's right.
Guzan, get in there.
I'm so glad you brought up how it oftentimes is a fight in CONCACAF, Raj. Like, people are going to see on paper, you've got better talent than Jamaica, better talent than Panama, better talent than El Salvador, than Guatemala. Whatever the case may be, you've got more talent. I believe it was Tyler Adams that said this and took a lot of heat for it. Like, playing in CONCACAF is harder than playing in Europe. There are certain difficulties that are presented to you that you don't see anywhere else in the world. Listen, when you're playing for Leipzig or you're playing for Leeds or you're playing for Bournemouth, you're playing on some pristine pitches. You're playing against world-class opposition, tactically sound systems, coaches, players. When you play in CONCACAF, oftentimes, as we saw last night, the field conditions are terrible. The refereeing changes by the country, not only where you're at, but also where that referee is from. The tactical setups are those of the usual type that you would never ever confront. If you're Bournemouth, you're not seeing teams sit on you. You're not seeing teams in their own 18. They're not fighting for life or death, These are certain complexities that you don't see around the world. The travel, the weather conditions. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Jurgen Klinsmann's World Cup cycle was first placed and he locked it up by, I think, with 3 games to go against Mexico, right? I'm old enough to remember being on a cricket field in Antigua and Barbuda where it took Eddie Johnson and Alan Gordon coming on as substitutes to bail us out so we win this game 2-1. If not, we're not even making it to the Hex. We're not in position to win the World Cup qualifying. It's a difficult situation. These are difficult moments. I know it's very simple for the fan to say, well, come on, you're the U.S. men's national team, how many players in Europe? But these are really difficult conditions. And going back to Mauricio Pochettino, you're absolutely right. He's got, 4 or 5 days to prepare, to really, make sure his team has that DNA, the idea, the style of play, and transmit that on the field. And I think you saw that last night. There was a moment where Christian Pulisic gets pulled by his hand, not his jersey, literally gets pulled back by the hand, and Christian Pulisic's asking for a card. And you can see the face of disbelief from Pochettino go over to the fourth official and just say, how is that not a yellow? And he's pleading with them, and he's having trouble understanding, why don't you see what I see? So it's very complex. That said, there's situations that U.S. men's national team has to manage and deal with, like Mexico does, like Costa Rica does, like Panama do, like these other countries do, and get favorable results. So it's good to see that they did it.
I mean, this was a game in which we saw so many of those CONCACAF tropes, the folding chairs in the dugout, tick, The horns faintly audible at all times on the broadcast tick. And of course, the old Concacaf mainstay of a really a pitch that broke up almost instantly underfoot, which is just a reality of the way football is played in our confederation. Very quickly, because I do want to get to the micro elements of the game, but as a player, how much does the surface affect the game? And how frustrating does it feel when you're playing on that?
It literally levels the playing field. I mean, the U.S. is a better tactical, technical team than Jamaica. Then I'd say the majority of teams in CONCACAF. When you have a pitch that's subpar, where the ball is rocky, where it's heavier on your legs, and people need to realize the effects on the legs. As the game goes, they eat up and chew your legs physically. You can already feel the lactic acid building as the game is going on. It gives the opponent a sense like, okay, this is difficult for them. We are used to this. I guarantee you there was better grass in those stands than there was in that field, Raj. There's no way the field should be that way. It's unplayable at times, and quite frankly, you could see it. Anthony Robinson, who's one of the better left backs in this confederation, I've said it, I think he's in a better moment right now than Alphonso Davies. Better moment. He has a situation where Christian Pulisic springs him, and I don't even want to say it's a bad first touch, but it's not the adequate first touch on that field. And it gets stuck between his feet, and he has to finish with his right foot in a way that's not quite the way he would have liked to finish. On a better field, a player like Anthony Robinson's pushes that forward, and he slots that away, and it's 2-0, 20 minutes in, and now the U.S. men's national team is like, let's manage this result. You could finish this series in Jamaica, but that's not the case. So you go in 1-0 at halftime, and you give Steve McLaren, this Jamaican team that has some very difficult players, a chance to come back into this. But it's a situation where if the field is better, if it's better conditions, if these players are accustomed, or it's a level playing field for everybody, it's just 50-50, then he could put that away, so to speak. But the field affects, the game tremendously.
Let's dive into the game, which was, as we've discussed, CONCACAF at factory settings. It was honestly an eyesore for long spells. But let's start with two joyous moments, which happened bloody early, lived out by two heroes, two human beings on different, parallel, singular journeys of vindication. First, we talked about him a lot in our preview. Ricardo Pepi, the king of Texas, still just 21. I mean, I say that again. We have to remember how young he is. He has lived so much life and died so many times and risen again already. And to watch him back up his claims that he's ready to, quote, be the man inside 5 minutes by scuffing home the only goal. It wasn't the greatest connect, was it, Herc? You'll have a sense of the finish, striker to striker. We talked about him a lot in our preview on Thursday. What did you see in that moment? What did you feel for Ricardo, Herc?
So Ricardo Pepi with that goal becomes, I believe, the fourth youngest or
fourth player to score 12 goals before turning 22.
That is insane, Raj. We're talking about guys like Landon Donovan, all-time leading goal scorer tied with Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore, who's played in pretty much everywhere, every continent, the Premier, had himself a very good U.S. men's national team career, and Christian Pulisic, the de facto GOAT, the guy who's going to be the best all-time player for the U.S. men's national team when it's all said and done. To be in that category tells you something. And I believe you mentioned that with this win, Mauricio Pochettino equals Greg Berhalter's all-time away wins, in his tenure. Do you remember who was responsible for that win for Greg Berhalter?
Would it be one Pepi?
Yes, against Honduras, where he had a hand in, I believe, all 4 goals in some way, shape, or form. So, Ricardo Pepi, it's something else. The resolve this man has. And listen, the movement was great. The ball by Christian Pulisic was something else. Christian Pulisic's ability in between two players to turn like that, engage the third player, see the movement of Ricardo Pepi, perfectly weighted pass. And then Ricardo Pepi, who I think panicked a bit there, chopped the ball, but he did what an old coach I had used to say. Herc, if you ever find yourself in a position you don't know what to do, kick it in the net. And that's what he did. He does what he does because it's second nature. This man finds himself in great opportunities, and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Tops the ball, hits the post, goes in. You can see it's more relief than joy. But he knows what to do, where to go. He's got that instinct that only goal scorers have. Now we can sit here and talk about Folarin Balogun and his play and how good he could be in open space and the banger he scored against Panama. And we could sit here and talk about how talented Josh Sargent is and the goals that he scores. How Haji Wright continues to score goals in a left winger position. But if we go through the tenure from last World Cup cycle to now, the only consistent forward that the U.S. men's national team has is Ricardo Pepi. And he knows that last World Cup cycle, he was the man at the beginning. And he feels he should have been at that World Cup. I could only imagine what's going through his head right now. It's a sense of relief, a sense of hope, but also a sense of deja vu. Like, I can't let this slip again. I got to do everything in my power to make Mauricio Pochettino pick me in the end, because I've been here before. I've been the man before and seen this slip away. So if you're Ricardo Pepi, you got to keep this going. As a forward, the only thing to defend yourself are the numbers.
I couldn't agree more, Herc. Big shout out to Christian Pulisic's assist here. I mean, it was a thing of beauty, exploding onto the ball on the half turn, charged through, I think, 3 players, took out 2 more with the slip pass. Really the most transcendent moment of football in the entire game. We saw nothing of its like really again. I want to do a very quick, no Pepe, no party, quick fire round with you though, Herc. I want to pretend for a moment that you're Mauricio Pochettino with your giant bowl of lemons. Monday night in St. Louis. Are you starting Pepe or are you resting him and taking a look at your other options?
I think I'm starting Ricardo Pepi. Think about this for a second. What's the one thing that Ricardo lacks at the club level? Opportunities, playing time. So it's not a situation where he's going to go back to PSV and go right into playing. If you're Mauricio Pochettino, you're thinking this might be the only chance he plays significant minutes in the foreseeable future for PSV. Luke de Jong's coming back. Luke de Jong's ready. So if I'm Pochettino, I'm thinking the job's not done. And I'm thinking I have an individual right now that in the 2 games that I threw him out there, scored goals. In the brief time he was out there, in the cameo in the second half versus Panama, and the 60 minutes he played against Jamaica, he scored goals. And who else do I have right now? I mean, Brandon Vasquez comes on as a sub. And when you come on as a substitute, and I know it's difficult for Brandon Vasquez or for anybody else, but when you come on as a sub, your mindset has to be, how can I make this coaching staff remember me? Remember the impact or what I did in that brief time. Well, they're going to remember that he had a clear-cut opportunity away from home to extend this, and away goals are crucial, and he hit it right into Andre Blake's hands. So right now, it really is Ricardo Pepi's place to lose. And I think he'll get that opportunity again.
Where will Pepe be playing his club football in February? Don't need the club, just the country. If you were Pepe's agent, where would you be trying to place him?
I think it'll be very difficult, but in the Eredivisie. But I don't think PSV is going to let him go. I think they see the player they have in him, and I think they understand that nobody is forever. And for as good as Luke de Jong is, you're banking on him again another year at 35, 36 years of age to be that player again. I think they understand they've got to start integrating Ricardo Pepi into the team sooner rather than later.
Oh, welcome to Everton, Ricardo. Got a big heart. Get that blue shirt on and bang in those goals. Is Ricardo Pepi the US men's national team starting striker first game of World Cup 2026?
Things change so quickly, Raj. 2010 World Cup. You think about the players that were used in that cycle. Connor Casey.
Edson Buddle.
Charlie Davies. Well, Edson Buddle and I were used later in that cycle. We made it to the World Cup without really doing any World Cup qualifying games. The forwards we took.
Are you saying Buddle might be coming back for 2026?
Edson Do Nascimento Buddle, by the way. You thought it would be Josie Altidore, and then Charlie Davies comes into the mix, and then he has his unfortunate accident. Connor Casey was involved in that mix as well, and it ends up being the forwards you take the World Cup are Josie Altidore, Robbie Finley, Edson Buddle, and Hercules Gomez. Like, it's not how it was started out. It's not the blueprint that Bob Bradley put out there. But when it comes to nines, you got to go with the hot hands. And Haji Wright came out of nowhere last World Cup cycle, and he was scoring a goal. You know, Josh Sargent played 10% of the World Cup cycle minutes and was your starting forward at that World Cup. Ricardo Pepi, who was a leading 9, goal-scoring 9 in that cycle, doesn't even go. So I hope for Ricardo Pepi that's the case, because I think he's proven that when given an opportunity, he can consistently put the ball in the back of the net. But your guess is as good as mine.
I think you're hinting that 2026 opening game, we got Brad Guzan at the back. We got Buddle at the top. What could go wrong now?
And Ream at centre back.
Oh, that. Yes, that's, by the way, 2030, 2034, always Tim Ream, which we'll get to. But the other big talking point, we just kind of hit it. Who would be our starting goalkeeper? And why was it not Lionel Messi's father, Mr. Bradley Guzan? The tenacious Matt Turner got the nod. One club start in, I think, 8 months. And it showed early. Jamaica's first charge in on goal. The quite potent throughout Shamar Nicholson ran in. Lost Tim Ream with really a delicious spin move, and then bullied Mark McKenzie to bear down on Matt Turner, who brought him down. Spoiler alert, we do dodge this bullet, America. But that defending in that moment, Herc, not just in that moment, to be honest, that was just a wall of chaos.
Yeah. Let's start with Joe Scally. Joe Scally playing the ball back, gives the ball away, puts his center backs, both of them, in a just precarious position. Tim Ream gets turned like a top not once but twice. Mark McKenzie can bail him out, goes in very softly and naively into this challenge. It squirts out to Nicholson, and Casey Keller, my old teammate and now colleague at ESPN, said it best. Shot stopping's easy for goalkeepers. That's the easy part. When you're not playing, it's the decision making that's the difficult part. And Matt Turner comes out when Nicholson's taking a touch away from goal. You probably don't need to. He gets there first, and Matt's forced to take him down, going to the penalty spot. But then you have a chance to redeem yourself. And Matt Turner does. Matt Turner does what he does in penalty kicks. I literally saw a penalty kick, and I thought to myself, he's going to stop this. He's that guy. It's not been since Nick Raimondo that I've seen a goalkeeper at the penalty spot that you just got a feeling he's going to make a play. He's going to come up big. And he did that.
3 of 8, I think he saved for the US, including 2 Jamaican shots. This was Damari Gray. You take the boy out of Everton, but not the Everton out of the boy. This was the Kembe Mutombo level shot blocking.
The no.
I mean, I wish he wagged the finger. I mean, it was a wonderful save, right?
Yeah. And you know what? The whole time I'm thinking to myself, before this game starts and while the game's going on, like, Matt Turner's got in the back of his head last time he was in Jamaica. Mikel Antonio scored a screamer from like 40 yards out that Matt Turner would want back. So I'm thinking to myself, like, Matt Turner's going to think to himself, I want this moment back. I want a little bit of redemption here. And he got it. And Matt Turner got his moment. Big time save.
We got that roar of redemption, which is almost as magnificent as the save. Huh?
And I would say did wonders for his confidence. Now, there were some shaky moments in general from the U.S. men's national team in the back line, but there was also some very good moments where Matt Turner comes off his line, plays a little sweeper keeper. I thought he was very good at reading the game here and there. Took his chances. Obviously, there's some gambles, but I thought he was good. I thought it was big redemption for him.
I mean, but when Matt Turner comes out, I hold my breath. He does not yet come out with confidence. I mean, that's the knock on Matt. I mean, every single moment put under the microscope for Matt Turner, for club and now for country. I do wish him like a Rocky training montage in terms of comeback, because he's a beautiful human being. But all of this happened within the first 40 minutes. And honestly, the rest of the game really descended into kind of a giant festival of terrible decision-making, broken up by occasional football-style fisticuffs. For me, the United States backline was vulnerable, as we've talked about. Matt Turner's kicking game was... He took his chances. He had a clean sheet. It was rusty at times. Yeah. I want to talk about the midfield, though, because it seems like the most work in progress. Pochettino started Johnny Cardoso and young Alabamaman Leon Wonder, former Clemson kicker Tanner Tessman in a double pivot. Weston McKinney was a 10, and Yunus Musa was off to the right. Cardoso limped off, injured in the 21st minute. Malik Tillman subbed in. But even as he did, he played deep. Weston stayed up top. Not a lot seemed to click. Yes, we know the field was tough to play, but the passing was incredibly loose, incredibly sloppy. What did you make of what Poch was trying to do? Did you understand it? What did you see? Why didn't it work?
Well, when you put Johnny Cardoso and Tanner Tessman there, you want defensive stability. It's a double pivot. They're going to defend. You're going to allow Weston to join the attack. You're going to say the onus is on that front four to provide, that attacking sting. The moment Johnny Cardoso goes out, you're thinking, okay, Malik Tillman comes in, double pivot. You could put Musa there, and you could let Malik Tillman, go to the right, or you can put Weston McKennie there, and you could put Malik Tillman in the center. That would make a lot more sense than making Malik Tillman play deep, where he doesn't normally play against what I thought was a better version of Jamaica in the second half. I mean, I don't know if McLaren, substituted Damari Gray and other people because it was injury related or fatigue, or it looked like attitude. He wanted to send a message, and the message was sent. Jamaica started bypassing that U.S. men's national team midfield. The U.S. men's national was playing a very high line. It seems to be of fashion as of late in world football, playing that high line. And they were abusing that line. It was direct one, route one football. They were getting in behind. Joe Scally was having a tough time. Tim Ream was having a tough time. Mark McKenzie, Anthony Robinson was being caught up field. Malik Tillman couldn't find the ball. Tanner Tessman was getting beat up physically. They pinned the U.S. men's national team back. It's not like the U.S. men's national team has a message being sent from Pochettino of, hey, drop. You naturally, if you're Jamaica with your actions, are pinning this team back, and they stayed there. And once they stayed there, it was Jamaica's kind of for the taking, and you could only see individual moments out of Christian Pulisic or a Anthony Robinson to find outlets, to relieve pressure. And they just had to weather the storm. And I thought they were very fortunate to weather that storm.
Yeah, Christian Pulisic, you mentioned him. He did cut a frustrated figure for much of the game. I mean, Jamaica targeted him. We wanted to see some fight after that loss to Mexico. I want to credit Christian. He definitely brought it. He took a real kicking. And what was interesting to me, Tim Ream got the captain's armband here, not Pulisic on this day. And Tim Ream, we've talked about this a lot together. Tim Ream is obviously, a huge percentage of the experience on this squad, huge percentage of this leadership on this squad. But his future on the team, when you look at 2026, let's just say it's uncertain. How should we decode the armband? Should we decode the armband? Should we not read anything into it? But is this Poch letting Pulisic, who by his own admission is not the most verbal, almost taking off a layer of responsibility and letting him focus on his own game?
I often think that the captain is decided by the group. The group naturally gravitates, and will decide who that captain is. And I think the coach should see how the group responds to certain individuals, and naturally he'll decide who's captain. But the group decides who the captain is. They'll let you know by their actions. I don't think Christian Pulisic wants that leadership. I don't think the armband matters to him. But I could see the benefit of having Tim Ream. Like, I see what Greg Berhalter and Mauricio Pochettino see in him. He's a natural leader. When he's on the ball, you can see him orchestrate where it should go. Like, literally put his foot on the ball, and at one point had two fingers pointing at two different players saying, hey, right there. Like, you need to split so I can play right there. Holding it and then going the other direction when it's not made. Like, I can see the benefit of a Tim Ream and how he adds value to your team going forward. But you could also see that Father Time is undefeated. For as good as Tim Ream is, you cannot allow yourself as a team, as a coach, as a backline to leave him isolated. Shamar Nicholson plays in Russia, and he's like the 6th, 7th choice forward for his club. He spun Tim Ream not once, but twice. It was jarring to see. You get Tim Ream isolated, he's in trouble. And this is not something new. We can go back to a game that pretty much put Tim Ream on the shelf for the better part of a year and a half, was the Mexico First Nations League, final in Denver. The one where they dramatically won 3-2, with a walk-off penalty, stop by Ethan Horvath. Tim Ream was put on a shelf by Diego Lainez, like just abused. And that's the last time we saw Tim Ream until he played the World Cup with Greg Berhalter and we're like, that's why he's there. Look how good he is. But people tend to forget, like, Tim Ream's never been physically fast. He's never been that imposing center back. Tim Ream is cerebral. Tim Ream's IQ. So that's why you have him on the field. But if you're going to have him on the field, you've got to hide him somehow defensively. And I say this with all due respect to Tim Ream, who's a very good player, but you can't allow him to be isolated. He was isolated many times in this game.
One of the great gentlemen of American football, Tim Ream. Godspeed, you incredible human being. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. I play because it's the easiest, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends. Become part of that Prize Picks community today. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across our country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into $1,000. You mentioned it, second half. We texted at halftime, and you wondered if the US would try and get out of the match 1-0 up on the road, big win, control the game, new to Jamaica, or if they went for that knockout second goal. Ultimately, they did neither. Second half, huge spells. There was 0 American control. I think Jamaica outshot us 13-6. How Mason Holgate didn't score Yunus Musa's miracle goal line block, which didn't get enough credit, only because Matt Turner just about clawed out the subsequent Olympico attempt from the corner. And then Tim Ream elbowed a goal-bound shot clear. That was a penalty, wasn't it, Herc? I mean, we got lucky that even VAR is drunk when it comes to CONCACAF.
Yeah, that was as much of a chicken wing as I've seen. And I thought that Jamaica were unfortunate not to get a penalty kick there and not even to go to VAR. It looked like a handball to me. I think Tim Ream looked like a guilty man there. I think the majority of fans would say, hey, we dodged a bullet here. But think about this. If you're a Jamaican fan, I'm sure everybody saw the Jamaican Grinch go up the stairs all angrily. I would be pissed if I were him. I come and support my team who says we don't support you enough. I come and support you. You miss a penalty kick, countless opportunities, and the referee doesn't award us what I thought was a stone cold PK. I would be angry. And by the way, that's that chicken wing that Tim Ream puts out there.
Yeah.
That was the last opportunity of a back-to-back Jamaica opportunity within 2 minutes. Like the U.S. men's national team were very fortunate to get out of Jamaica. Forget what the favorable result with the win, but they did. And good teams find ways to win. And CONCACAF is CONCACAF, and everything evens out in the wash. There's going to be some moment where the U.S. will feel very hard done, and they should remember about this play because this is the way that CONCACAF goes.
God, yeah, I've got Tim Ream's guilty face in that moment. It was as close to seeing Homer Simpson retreat into the bushes meme as I have seen on a football field. And God bless you, Tim, you great American. As you're saying, a win is a win. The US could control very little in that second half, but we escaped with a clean sheet. And after the self-soiling performance, albeit with that B team down in Mexico, we wanted to see some fight in this game, some grinter, as Poch calls it. Matt Turner talked about that before the game. He said, I'm not talking about tactics or quality, talking about backing each other up when hard tackles and challenges come in, getting on the referee, winning duels all over the field. Did we see enough of that last night? Like on a scale of 1, Couva defeat 2017, to 10, 1994 spirit in the imagination of the 1994 team. Where did you put us last night?
7. And I think it's a solid 7. I think it's good resolve by the U.S. men's national team. Listen, you play away, it's never, ever going to be perfect. You're going to have to weather all types of storms, the opponent, the referee, the shithousery that comes with playing in this region. I thought the fight was there. I don't want to see fight just to fight. I want to see players pick themselves up, defend each other. I want to see them try to hold the referee accountable, protect certain players. We've all seen the video that circulated before this game. I believe they were playing against Panama, and it's Matt Turner saying, protect this guy, protect this fucking guy, talking about Christian Pulisic. That's what you need to do. You need to be a family. And if somebody messes with my family, I'm not going to tolerate that. I thought that was there. Certainly, you don't want to be an idiot on the field and get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, by the way, there were moments in this game when I was just so glad Tim Ware and Serginho Dest were both not playing.
Exactly. It's funny you say that. You're like, oh, it's only one time. It's multiple times for these guys.
But like last night, walking red cards for sure.
Exactly. But I think this absolutely comes from the coach. Like, nobody fights with us. We protect each other. We are a family type deal, this unity. I think that strong personality comes from the coach. And I criticize Greg Berhalter, and I don't want to, beat a dead horse with Greg Berhalter, but I once told Greg Berhalter to his face when I had him on Football Americas that I know you heard that I said that this team is soft, and I think that's the reflection of their manager. What do you have to say to that? And he looked down and said, no, I don't pay attention to those things. We didn't hear it. These teams are a reflection of their manager when it comes to character, personality. If I'm a coach, I'm not allowing my team to lay down, to be bullied. We defend each other. Technically, those things sometimes won't go your way, but you can control your attitude. You can be accountable for who you are and how you protect each other.
There was a moment when Anthony Robinson backed up Pooley actually pushing someone out of bounds. I would say the fight was there last night. But this is still such a quiet team overall on the field. There's a lot of seeming introverts, a lot of youth. That's why Tim Ream's still there. Yeah. Very much. I mean, I'd just say leadership continues to be a vulnerability for this team. Christian Pulisic often says he hates the combo about whether this team has more or less fight than the classic teams that came before it. But it is a real thing, right? I mean, these guys are much better footballers. They're living in a completely different age. They weren't all living together in Mission Verde with no professional contracts, just trying to fight to even get America to care one iota about football.
The 90s U.S. men's national team were a club team. They had a residency, and you see some crazy numbers, of appearances, but you can get close to 80 appearances in 2 years.
Yeah, they were playing 50, 60 games. They were playing like games on high school fields.
They were playing against club teams. Yeah. And it certainly, if you ask those guys, did not feel like a professional environment. They didn't have the opportunity or the resources that players today have. And that's not the fault of the players today. But I would argue, like, we sometimes criticize these players for their mentality. It takes a lot to leave your house at 15, 16 years of age and go abroad by yourself and to fight. It's either sink or swim. And to be in a session where they don't see you as a boy, they see you as somebody who's trying to take food off their plate, take their position, and how cutthroat that is. And to be by yourself in a different country and have to deal with those type of things, it's not easy. So I would argue that the fighting mentality is already there. But somewhere along the lines, they get comfortable and they see this opportunity to come back to America as vacation time. I get to see my family and friends, and there will be no pressure, because there's pressure when I play for Juventus. There's pressure when I play for Milan, or when I'm playing for Chelsea, or when I'm in the Premier League, back page 6. I went out to dinner and I shouldn't have been out to dinner here at this hour. There's pressure there. But when I come out to play for the U.S. men's national team, what? I'm going to get men in blazers saying, hey, they lack mentality. Football America is like, whatever. Somewhere along the lines, they lose that, Raj. I'd argue the fight is there. They just think America is sometimes their happy place.
America as a happy place. I'd just say Tyler Adams cannot get back quick enough. Monday night now looming. I'd just say this, Herc. Agree, disagree. I think we will. We should, is probably a better way of saying it. Smash this team on Monday on real turf in less Concacaf conditions in St. Louis. Am I deluded?
No, you're absolutely not. Better conditions, you put that team away in the first half. You're not having to weather this storm in the second half. I think you're going to see a different type of U.S. men's national team. The word of the week of the camp for Pochettino was aggression. Aggressive. Be aggressive. I think you're going to see a very aggressive U.S. men's national team. You're going to get Timothy Weah back. I think some pace is going to hurt Jamaica. That back line was 6s and 7s. They were hurting big time. They didn't know what to do. I think that was more onus on that midfield and how lost it was. But certainly, you get a quick goal. Do not allow Jamaica to grow in confidence, and this game should be over. I think this should be not only a professional performance, but a type of performance for the U.S. men's national team where you're thinking, I need to pad the stats. I need to put myself in those first two positions going forward.
So to sum it up, not a classic, but a win. And in international football, that is all that matters. Win ugly, the win sweetly. This is not a beauty contest. Just win, baby. And by the way, as Herc said up top, to win on the road in Concacaf, as he said this last night to Brendan Hunt, it should be counted in dog years and be worth so much more than just the 3 points. The big headline, Poch has now matched Greg Berhalter's record on the road. Concacaf wins of 1. He's magic, you know. I do want to get your final word on Poch. I love Poch. I believe in Poch. But he's a manager. He's a human. He's not a miracle worker. I talked about it post-game. My worry is we are hoping aspirationally that Poch is going to lift this team to, Champions League final soaring heights. But there's also the scenario, and I dare barely speak this into existence, that we kind of pull Poch down. We suck Poch down into CONCACAF. We almost bring him down to our level.
It's hard to argue that it won't be the case because that's the world he lives in now, right?
This is your world.
It's hard to be an eagle.
World now, Grandma.
I say this respectfully, but it's hard to be an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. It's the way it is. But Raj, this is what he chose. Like, this is obviously not the Champions League final. This is obviously not the world he's accustomed to. But it gives him an opportunity to do something special. He mentioned South Korea. He mentioned Morocco as teams he would like to emulate at the World Cup. What do those teams have in common? They made amazing World Cup runs. So he sees what this U.S. men's national team is today, but also what it could be tomorrow. And I think that's a great thing. I think Mauricio Pochettino is still learning on the job, and people need to realize that. Yes, he's a manager, but you said it at the opening. He's not an international manager, and it's very complex getting to know that you have every single day for a whole season with these players, as I have these guys for a week at a time, every other month.
This is the life I chose. God, I've got to say, we are a special bunch as American fans. It's like we have two gears. Either we're going to win the World Cup, or we are the absolute pits. And I do sometimes, I'm starting to realise we can actually hold both of those opinions at the same time. But the weird part of last night, and I do need to address this with you very quickly before we close, how few people seem to actually care in America that our US men's national team were playing. This game this is the cool bad luck. It'll happen again on Monday night. Went on the same time as the Washington Commanders took on the Eagles. This match felt so small, so in the shadows, in the sporting landscape, in the size of the noise it made, the conversation, the social impact, social media impact, so much less relevant than we want, than we dream, than we crave this close to a World Cup. We have to do so much bloody work to capture the interest for this US men's national team outside of the bubble again.
Yeah, and that interest only comes about with World Cups. That's when you see the interest from the American fan at that scale, like the rest of the world. That's when people will tune in. But since 2018, since that failed World Cup, people have been disenchanted with the men's national team. We live in this echo chamber where we think the national team is important, and sure it is, to those who follow it, but not more important than, for at least general casual fans in the States, than the Eagles playing the Commanders, then Jaden Daniels and what he's doing right now, then Saquon Barkley and the great season he's having. I mean, it's a reality of things. This team has a lot of goodwill to win back with the people, and that only happens with big moments. And then I'll leave you with this. This is also, I think, FIFA and CONCACAF's fault. Nobody wants to see another Nations League. How many times have the U.S. played Jamaica in the last, 2 years? It seems like they play each other at least 4 times a year. People could care less about these type of games. They'll tune in for a Mexico. They'll turn in for a final against Canada. This is interesting. All of a sudden, Jesse Marsh here. But they expect you to beat Jamaica. They expect you to make it to the semis, make it to the finals. So they're, tune in when it's important. They don't think this tournament's important. And honestly, it's hard to blame them when sometimes the national team has given us reasons not to tune in. You're playing against Mexico and Pochettino's saying, hey, Christian Pulisic, go take a day off.
I gotta say, I long for the days of that surging excitement of 2014 when everything felt possible. We are back in the bubble. Our boys are a giddy little bubble secret. We love them. I can't wait for Monday. Herc, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed these conversations to talk to you about where we are, where we're going. I will be back here on YouTube with the one and only Dax McCarty. Cannot wait to speak to that ginger lion in the winter of his season, in which he's just destroying all comers. We'll be on together at the final whistle after Monday night's game in St. Louis, right here on YouTube. I think I'm going to dial up some toasted ravs in honor of the occasion, but make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, turn on those notifications so you get a reminder when we are about to go live. Come on, be with me and Dax. I do love these Do It Lives with you, dear GFOPs. Until then, check out Herc on ESPN Plus's Quite Joyous Football Americas. That is quality. Of course, Vamos on the Men in Blazers Media Network. Herc, thank you, you beautiful human being, for being with me this morning.
Oh, thank you. Anytime, any place, anytime. And thanks for the gear. Look at this.
It looks so good on you, Herc. Why doesn't it look that good on me? We'll be back on Monday. Until then, let's never take a second of watching football together for granted. I'm off to Chicago this weekend to eat all the Pequods. And even more importantly, remember this: no Pepe, no party. Big love, courage.